Right, hello and welcome to the video. If you're new to our channel, my name is Nick and this is my wife,
Andrea.
And we're resellers. We earn our living selling the stuff that you can see around us on the internet. And we've done a series of videos where we chat with Hannah and sometimes special guests from eBay. So we're pleased to say we've got Hannah back with us. And Irene, do you want to say hello, guys?
Hello.
Hello.
So very happy to be back. I won't say much about me because I think most people have probably seen me before, but I work for eBay in the UK, and it's part of my role to find out what's going on in the selling community and take some of what we're learning from you guys back into some of the decisions that we make, and also let you know what's going on at eBay. So I'm joined by Irene from our shipping team.
Hi, I'm Irene. I look after the Global Shipping Programme, or otherwise known as GSP. I'm based in the UK as well.
Fantastic.
Hello.
So we were saying before that our channel caters for people who are just finding out about eBay right the way through to established businesses. But can we start with what is the GSP and why was it created? Can we go there first?
Yeah, sure. I think the why GSP was created, it was created in 2014 in the UK, and it came directly from sellers saying, it's really difficult to ship internationally. We don't know how to do it. We don't know what carriers to use because every country has different carriers that are good, not so good, etc. So it basically got born out of a seller saying to us, this is a major pain point for us. So we decided to create basically a program that allows UK sellers to get their listings visible across 87 countries worldwide. And all they have to do is check a tick box. If they get a sale, they send it into a hub in Lichfield up north, and that's it. It's as simple as that. So it's an intermediated solution. So we do the work. So the seller doesn't need to worry about calculating costs, what carriers to use, how to manage it. We do everything for them.
Yeah. And I mean, we get questions quite regularly because I mention GSP every now and again in videos, and we get people who say, what is it? And I tend to say it means that you can ship internationally, but only have to do domestic shipping. That kind of sums it up for me. So, and we use it ourselves. We have been since it started. So we just, if you're in the UK here, you just send your parcel as you normally would. We use Royal Mail for most of ours to, like you say, this shipping hub. And beyond that, you don't have to worry about it, really.
Yeah.
And it's worked really well for us. So that in a nutshell is what it is.
Yes.
But we do have some more questions, a bit more detailed questions about how the ins and outs of how it works. So do you want to start? I'll let you start.
Okay, I'll start with the first question. Will I be automatically enrolled into GSP? And if not, how do I start using it?
So that's a really good question. So you can go into your site preferences and switch on GSP at an account level. We do auto-enroll sellers at certain points throughout the years, but it's important to us that it's above standard sellers. So if you fall below standard, then you won't be able to enroll, or we won't auto-roll you into the program, because what we're looking for is the buyers to get the best experience regardless of where they are. So you can either enroll yourself, or we will auto-enroll sellers a couple of times a year.
Okay, so that's interesting. So if you do fall below standard, you wouldn't be able to switch it on for yourself anyway. Is that
correct? Correct.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
No, I didn't know that. It's been so long since we first started using it.
And thankfully, we were
changed.
We were above standard. So okay.
Yeah.
And then regarding the international leg of the postage, now that is charged to the buyer separately, apart from the domestic postage that we would charge. And how is that fee calculated for the buyer out there in the world somewhere?
So good question, and I'll try and keep my answer as succinct as possible. So the real benefit of the GSP program from a buyer side is they see upfront on view item and at checkout exactly what they're going to pay for the international leg of the journey, and they see there's a little box that says this item is sent through the global shipping program. So everything's calculated at the point of checkout says this is your total item price and this is the ship cost. So the buyer has clarity, there's nothing additional to pay when it gets to country. How we calculate that is an algorithm.
Okay.
Yeah, good old algorithm. And it takes into account a number of things. It takes into account what the product is. It takes into account what category the product sits in. And then there's a whole load of clever machine intelligence that takes into account what we know about previous items of the same description, what weights and dimensions there were, etc. And it uses all that intelligence to calculate at checkout what the international total cost of that journey is. And it also calculates, depending where the buyer is, if there's duties to be paid, it'll calculate it all at that point. So it's basically clever machine intelligence that works all these things out and is continually learning and making the best cost for the buyer, basically.
Okay. And I think the point to be reminded of here is we don't really need to know anything about that, because it's not part of what we have to do. We don't need to calculate any of that. We just need to know how to get it to the UK hub.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you say, so the international buyer can see that up front, because I do still get questions from international buyers about how much is postage going to cost to get it to me, which can be frustrating, because if they can see it at point of sale and then they ask me and I'm like, I don't know, and I sound really daft because I can't tell them.
We can't see that cost, can we? As a seller?
I can tell you how you can see it.
Oh, okay.
It's a shame we can't show it on the screen.
If I was sitting next to you, I'd be sitting showing you all this.
Right.
And so if you go into your item, and then if you're on a desktop and you scroll down to the postage and payments section, if you click under there's an option to change your country from United Kingdom to basically any of the other countries in the world. And if you change it, so say you're based in Switzerland and you have a buyer saying, how much is it to Switzerland? If you just change that drop down to Switzerland and then click get rates, you will be able to see how much the buyer's getting charged.
Okay.
Oh, right. Okay.
That's useful.
Yeah.
Because also we use our own international shipping on a certain percentage of what we sell, but I'm never sure if GSP would offer a cheaper rate or not, and we can kind of roughly gauge that by checking.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we're seeing now is more and more sellers are doing a combination of both GSP plus their own shipping, because depending on the country, some countries are really easy to ship to if there's no duties. So you can do both. So it's not just you don't need to just do GSP. You can do your own plus GSP as well.
You could do that. I thought if you ticked GSP, it doesn't allow you to do your own international postage.
But you can uncheck it when you list the item. Down at postage, you can uncheck GSP as an option on that item.
Right. Okay.
We're learning.
You can. So it's about it's almost to the bottom of the listing form if you're listing directly on eBay on the desktop version, and then you can it's where you see any countries that you've excluded on that listing as well.
Yeah.
So it's just a checkbox to be in or out of GSP. So it's totally customizable.
Yeah. I think the one thing is about GSP, you don't need to worry about any of the documentation that needs to go with your parcel. So what the GSP program does is it knows what documentation also needs to accompany the parcel to that country. So if you are doing it yourself, make sure you know what the rules are for the country that you're posting to. It would be my guidance, really.
And you mentioned something to me the other day about Spanish islands as well.
Yes.
Do you want to just explain a bit more about that?
Yeah, so Hannah and I were talking about this. I was talking about a seller that's just recently come on to GSP. They do their own international shipping, and they're a really big seller, but they're using GSP for some countries because they can't get a carrier contract for the Spanish islands, but we have that as part of what we do. So although they're a massive seller, there's some countries they just struggle to get a contract with. So that's why they use the combination of both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Quickly, going back to you're listing one individual item on the desktop, and you've got the GSP thing, and you can either check that or not. If you leave that checked and you also put in your own international shipping, how does the buyer see that? And do they then have the option to choose the cheapest?
No, if you put international shipping as your main thing on the listing, that will be what the buyer sees. So
if I leave GSP checked, it wouldn't override my own international.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Good. We're clearing things up in my head now as well.
Okay, that's my confusion, I think, because I always thought that if you had GSP checked, then you put your own international postage in across the board kind of thing, it then cancels out GSP.
Yeah, apparently it does.
Yes. So then how do you do? I think you.
Why are you asking me?
I don't know why I'm asking you. I think I would need to have a look at it and just.
I think we might need a tutorial on this, unless we've got one already. We may have one.
To be honest, it is quite complex because you then also need to set up international rate tables as well. So if you're doing your own shipping and you're doing worldwide or European and there's different costs, you then need to go into your account settings and set rates at international level by country. So it is definitely something that's more of a tutorial, complex.
Yeah, I think, but for the people who aren't using GSP at the moment, or they're just sending domestically at the moment because they've not done anything internationally, GSP is a really easy option to start. So for anyone who's in that position, who's listening and thinking, crikey, this is sounding like it's going to get me all tied up in knots and confusing, the first step into selling internationally is just switch on GSP for all your listings. Wow. And then once you get more comfortable with it and you start talking to carriers about different international services, whether it's Royal Mail, whether it's somebody else, there's plenty of people that will sell internationally, will send internationally, then come back and look into the customization. But the customization, I wouldn't see as the first step into selling internationally.
Yeah, and that explains the big strength of GSP for me is that because for anything larger than a large letter, I tend to have that switched on.
Yeah.
I do use some of the car parts myself because they're small and light and I can work out the rates really quickly. But yeah, GSP exactly is useful for that very fact that international shipping is complicated. And you can't get past it.
You know, this is what I'm saying, that we've been using it for a long time, and I use it for all of my clothing, and I've never even realised that I could do a combination. I thought it was one or the other.
It is. That's what we're saying. So you put your own, it overrides GSP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I do want to ask one question. Just thinking about the clothing that I do, I was just thinking that I normally just check GSP shipping, and then I don't do anything else. I don't put any weights in. I don't put any dimensions in. Is it important to do those things?
Not at all. So the way it works is it uses all this artificial intelligence and machine learning based on the description of the item, the category it's in, what we know about similar items, and it calculates the cost based on all these factors. Now, if you have weights and dimensions in, it will take them into account, but you don't need to put them in. And that's the beauty of it, that because it's continually learning and we're centralizing this all, it knows what's going through. The machine learning's making all these decisions, so you don't need to worry about weighing every item, measuring every item.
Okay, that's
okay,
great.
interesting.
Yeah.
That was one of my questions for
Okay,
later.
awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm also not jumping in with things because I'm thinking, are they on the questions list? I'll let you ask it.
Next thing I wanted to ask about is final value fees, because obviously the buyer is going to be charged a chunk of shipping.
Yep.
Does that affect our fees, the fact that the buyer is paying a lot more for the GSP on top?
No. So what happens is whatever you have on your domestic listing, so say you have £10 for the item and £2 for postage, that's what you get and that's what you pay fees on. What the buyer pays for the international leg is completely separate. So you don't even get that money. That goes off to the global shipping program to pay for the shipping. So you're only paying your final value fees on your item, domestic item price and domestic shipping if you have any.
Yeah. And regarding accounts, because we use it, obviously, you don't have to worry about the extra money because you don't ever see it, you don't handle it. It's separate between eBay and ourselves. Yeah. So that keeps things less complicated on that side of things.
Much more. This is something that we get asked quite often is, can we offer combined shipping with GSP?
Unfortunately, combined shipping doesn't work with GSP. However, if a buyer is buying multiple things through GSP, it automatically does that at the checkout. So we kind of do an element of it through the program at checkout. So if there are ordering 3 different books from a seller, we will calculate that that's 3 things going to one country. But the way you do combined shipping at the moment doesn't work with GSP.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, okay. So if an international buyer inquires, we can say, go through to checkout, and then they can see before they check out the combined.
Yes.
Okay, that's useful to know.
Yeah.
Right, I thought that wasn't possible with GSP.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well. So we're learning things.
We're learning
today.
so much here. Okay, good. That's the point of this video, really. We've been using it for ages and didn't know half this stuff. Okay, so what did we do there? Combine.
Yeah.
Now, this is a big question, and I think a lot of the queries that we see going around are to do with lost or damaged items, and at which point in the leg, and are we accountable for it? So lost or damaged items on the international leg of the shipping, how does that work?
So as a seller, your only responsibility is getting it to the global shipping hub. And then it becomes the responsibility of the global shipping hub. So as soon as it's received in there, which we use the unique identifier on the label to receive it in there, then it moves over. So if it gets lost or damaged in transit, then the global shipping program is responsible for that, not the seller.
And I mean, we have actually dealt with a couple of these instances, but for those that haven't, how is that handled? If the customer contacts me and says my vase has turned up smashed, whatever the case might be, how does that happen practically with dealing with it?
So it depends what way the buyer gets through. If they go through to our customer service team, then it'll go through the GSP pathway, which basically says, is it a GSP item? Was it damaged in transit? And if so, then I'm not too sure about how our customer services work, so I'm looking at Hannah here. So if it's a GSP item, then it's our responsibility. So if they come through to you directly, you can just tell them to contact eBay customer service, and then it'll get through the GSP pathway for sorting it out.
I think the important thing there is if there is a problem like that, don't automatically do what I've heard some people do, panic, refund, doing all of these things. Get them to contact eBay. Because eBay will then know what to do with them, how to process it, and if a refund is due to them because something has has got lost or whatever, they will sort it out. But don't start refunding things to the buyer until they've actually gone through the process with eBay customer support.
Okay. Yeah, one example I sent quite a large Sylvanian family's house to France, and it arrived smashed, and they were quite rightly contacting us through eBay, very upset, and what you're going to do about it, etc. And I said, wasn't being rude, but it's not my issue. Can you contact eBay? And that was the last we heard until they sorted it all out. I think the buyer got a refund and we kept our money. I think that's how it worked.
Yeah, that's correct. So it is the responsibility of the global shipping program if it gets lost or damaged on the international leg of the journey.
Yeah. Okay. Which is great, and that has worked out for us every time. Effectively, what we said at the beginning is the GSP basically gives us the ability to ship internationally, and I've said this before, but just do domestic, and beyond getting it to the hub, you forget about it. Yeah. That's what I love about it, because it's like, complicated bit isn't your problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just one more thing on the protection side of things. If somebody's got a negative or they've got low stars on delivery, does that get changed automatically if it was GSP?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So if something is sent out by GSP and then the customer wants to return it for whatever reason, what happens then?
Unfortunately, returns aren't covered through the GSP program. So what would happen is the seller would be responsible for resolving that with the buyer. However, what I would say, there's something new has gone into our listing flow where you can have a different returns policy for your international sales as your domestic sales. So say you offer free domestic returns, you can have your international returns as buyer pays.
Okay. Yeah. I've got one coming back at the moment. A clothing item that I sent to Australia, and it's coming back. And I was wondering, obviously I will then, once it comes back, I'll pay his postage that he's paid, refund that to him, and also refund his original payment. But then what happens with the postage that he's paid through GSP? Does that get refunded back to him? Or because that's not I can't do that.
Good question, and I don't know the answer to it, but I will find out and I'll come back to you.
I think in that case, he needs to speak to eBay customer support.
Yeah.
And if there's a refund due of any kind, he needs to sort that out with them.
Okay.
Yeah. Good point, actually.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's a very sort of friendly transaction at the moment, but I was kind of worried that, once I then refund his domestic postage, I could foresee that he's going to say, but hang on, I paid blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah, that's why they really need to contact eBay. And I can't stress this enough. If it's a question around GSP, first point of call should be contacting eBay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Right.
We covered can the buyer see GSP shipping costs before? And amazingly, that's the end of my list. But there was something in there that comes up a lot, and it's a question that I would like clarification on. Hopefully, you can quickly touch on this. When I send my item to the UK GSP hub, is it automatically opened and repackaged? Because a lot of people think everything is opened, and people are worried that I spent ages packing this really neatly, and somebody's just going to yank it out and just chuck it in another box. How does that work? Can you answer that?
Yeah, I can indeed.
Okay.
So it all depends. So it depends on what the product is, what country it's going to. So the large majority of items don't get repackaged. So they come through, we receive them into the hub, then we put the labels, we put any special paperwork on the box, and it goes out. There are occasions where we will open the box, and it depends on the product, it depends on the category. For example, if it's something that's got a lithium battery in it, it will go through a dangerous goods review. So that's what our team specialise in. We have an exception process, so we know if it needs to be opened, and what paperwork needs to do that. So yes, some effectively it depends on the product. Some we will. The large majority of them don't get opened. Okay.
That's interesting, because a lot of people have different ideas on what exactly happens at these mythical places.
Yeah.
And we did that. Sorry, I think we're probably going to say the same thing. Were you going to talk about the video?
Yes. Yeah, we did. We actually did a YouTube video recently in the hub in Lichfield, so you can see the process and you can see the parcels moving through, and it covers what we do with what parcels. And I think just the other thing to add to that is, you know, that's the complexity of international shipping, is we know what we need to do. We have a team of specialists that if it needs to go through dangerous goods review, they're specially trained and qualified to do that. So you as the seller don't need to worry about that.
And I think one of those videos has got an example of somebody opening a box, and you can see that it's not just ripping it apart and throwing packaging everywhere. They're just cutting it open very carefully, opening it up, checking that what's in there is what's supposed to be in there.
So it basically checks what you've put on the listing. So it will either be checking the country of origin or checking that what is in the box matches what was on the listing. So we don't check for things like, you know, the quality or anything like that. We're just checking that what you said is there is what's there.
Yeah, so if it's significantly not as described when you send it out, then the buyer could still like pull you up on that. GSP is not going to be covering against that. It's the delivery part of it. Okay.
The video or videos you mentioned there, could we link those below? Are they?
Yeah, I can send you the link so you can pop them down.
So if you're interested in that, there should be those links below in the description box. Okay, fantastic. We've actually run out of questions. That went way quicker than I imagined.
Oh, right.
That's not a bad thing. Was there anything else that you thought would be useful for people to know, or what do you think we've covered?
I think the one that I've seen coming up in communities is about items that are okay to sell in the UK but are prohibited in other countries. Does GSP pick up when that's allowed or not?
Yes. So I think that's the other beauty for sellers as well, is we'll work that out based on what you've got in your listing and what category it's in. So for example, you can't send wool to Japan. And not a lot of people know that because it's quite recently implemented. And I think it's only certain types of wool, but we will know that. We will either block that category so that the buyers don't see that product. So
would that mean like a jumper or something like that couldn't be sent to Japan?
Yes.
Oh, right.
Oh,
that's news to me. Didn't know that.
Yeah. So I think the beauty of the program is the GSP program has a load of specialists that sit around it that understand all the customs rules, all the requirements for every single country that we go to, and we'll work that out. If there's a change to the rules, we'll work that out. We'll either block that category, and we do quite a lot of that because things do change or things come up that we didn't notice before. Like, I know this might sound quite random, human bones is one that comes up. So most countries you're not allowed to send human bones to. Like I'm talking, musical instruments are made out of human bones.
Oh, right, antiques. Yeah, okay.
I was thinking I don't sell many human bones. Fine.
So I'm just remembering.
But it might be like
a thigh bone,
like old
that's a
dentures from like hundreds of years ago might have been made out of bone, and maybe an antique dealer selling them. Wow, I hadn't thought about that.
And
thigh bone flute, we might have one.
Yeah.
We might have one of those somewhere.
Really?
No.
So I know that things like that aren't allowed.
I sell quite a lot of wicker and wood products, and I know that most countries you can't ship that to. So
Yeah.
I tend to not do international on that at
Yeah,
all.
we learned that the hard way by getting some really lovely sales to America and then realizing we can't send it to you.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's happened. You hear of people that get on aeroplane with their musical instrument, and then when they get to the country they're going to, they find out that actually, because it's made of a certain type of wood, they're not allowed to take it in.
Oh no.
Mm.
Can you imagine if you're a musician about to perform?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's so many intricacies about.
Oh, another
what
one
you
I
can.
thought of, because I know this one came up when we first launched GSP. It was people selling live things like fishing baits and plants and things like that. And I remember somebody saying, oh, they've put GSP on my listing, and it turned out they'd listed it in the wrong category.
Right.
So it's really important to list in the correct category so that you don't end up selling something that just is going to be pretty horrible when it arrives.
Yeah. And then just quickly, because I do a lot in video games. I've just been testing loads of consoles actually. Am I right in saying that GSP is not applied to the video games category?
I couldn't tell you. I think it is, but I would need to double check that.
So I wasn't sure, because there's people who have mentioned that you need to do your own international shipping on video gaming.
I would need to double check. Most of the category, it's kind of like category country. So I think there's about 36,000 combinations of our categories and countries together. Let me come back to you on that. I would need to double check it.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, a couple of things that we're going to check up on once we have those answers, we'll pop those in the comment section and description box below to clarify that.
Yeah.
But I think we've covered it. We've certainly covered what we wanted to ask.
Yeah. Well, if there are any questions from anybody viewing this that we haven't covered today, because there's so many questions. When we originally launched GSP, we took all the questions that we were seeing on the eBay community and got answers for them. So there is a page on the eBay Seller Centre where there's literally a long list, as long as your arm, of things that people might ask about GSP. I think we can probably find that link and give that to you so you can link it below.
Yep. Yeah, that would be useful. So yeah, links below. Hopefully now I've got to remember to put down there links to these videos. We'll link the frequently asked questions.
Yeah.
And yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
And we can always check in on the comments if there's any questions that people have got about how it works. We can pop in over the next few days and have a look and see what questions are there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so do please put your comments and questions below and we'll take a look at those.
Indeed.
And we'll wrap this one up.
Yes. Thank you very much, Irene.
Thank you.
Thank you, Irene and
Thanks
Hannah,
for having us.
Take care.